Today I'm diving deep into the new Pixel 9a's camera. I've been using this for a few weeks now and I'll show you real-world examples, test out the image quality, portrait mode, selfie camera, video capabilities, slow-mo, stabilization, and the new AI feature like Add Me. Pixel phones have always been known for having some of the best cameras. Does that reputation still hold up for this one? Well, stick around and let's find out. So Google recently released the Pixel 9a, which I'm actually using to record this video right now, so you can let me know how it looks. For a lot of people, camera quality is one of the most important things to consider when buying a new phone. And it makes sense because phone cameras basically eliminated the need for digital point and shoots and compact cameras like this. In this video, I'm only going to focus on the camera. Before getting into it, keep in mind that this is a budget, mid-range $500 phone. And let's be honest, with inflation, higher costs, and those tariffs, a lot of people are probably going to look at mid-range phones like this one. And if this can deliver flagship level camera performance without breaking the bank, then that's a big win. Alright, back in the office, on my computer here, looking at some of the photos and videos I've taken with the Pixel 9a over the past few weeks. The 9a has a 48 megapixel rear-facing camera with a sensor that's actually slightly smaller than the last generation, which had a 64 megapixel. Google probably made this change to accommodate the slimmer camera module here, so no more noticeable camera bump here, but honestly, I use a case anyway, so that camera bump never really bothered me that much. And the 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera here is the same as the last generations. And for all the photographers out there, good news is that this can shoot in RAW. And they come in these DNG files, so that means you can get full control over your images in post, more flexibility when editing shadows and highlights, and just overall more creative freedom if you prefer using something like Lightroom. Now, of course, for most people, JPEG is still the way to go. It's better for sharing, smaller file sizes, faster. So all of these shots you see are JPEGs straight out of the camera. The rear-facing 48 megapixel camera delivers exactly what you'd hope for from a Pixel. It's consistently sharp, but of course, if you zoom all the way in, you're still gonna see some softness, mostly from the noise reduction kicking in. And thanks to Google's image processing, you get vibrant colors that still manage to feel true to life. HDR Plus is automatically turned on. It does a solid job most of the time. It balances out shadows and highlights. But to be honest, in certain situations, for example, when you're shooting against the sun or you've got a lot of backlight, the HDR effect can feel a little too much. But it really comes down to personal preference, and you can always turn HDR Plus off. The ultra-wide angle lens here is great for landscape, group photos, or if you're just in a tight spot. But as I said, this is only 13 megapixels, so it's not as sharp. It doesn't do that well in low light, but still having an ultra-wide at this price range is a win because the iPhone 16e, which is like the same price or the same range of phones, doesn't have an ultra-wide lens. Now, one thing you'll definitely notice is the lack of a dedicated zoom lens. So everything beyond the standard field of view is going to be handled with digital zoom. At 2x or 3x, it uses a bit of AI and processing magic to try and keep things fairly detailed, but once you go beyond that, the images start to fall apart. Compare that to my older Pixel 7 Pro, which is about 3 years old now. This does have a zoom or a telephoto lens. Here you can see some footage or zoomed in footage I shot with the 9a, comparing it to my Pixel 7 Pro, which has the dedicated telephoto lens. For me, this is kind of a big deal because I tend to shoot a lot of far away subjects, like sporting events, concerts, cityscapes. Or for example, last week when I ran into John Turturro and I didn't want to bother their film shoot, so I just snapped a quick photo from across the street. A new feature on the 9a is the introduction of macro focus. For me, a zoom lens would have been much more useful, but if you like taking macro shots, then this is a feature that you'll like. Okay, for portrait mode, I'm gonna be honest, I've never really been a fan of portrait mode on phones. Even though newer phones have gotten better at this, like the newer iPhones and the Pixels, the subject separation is not bad. Edge detection has improved, but especially around tricky areas like hair, it still looks pretty weird. I know some of you guys enjoy using portrait modes, but for me, I never really use it. One of the most underrated parts of any smartphone is how fast you can open the camera app and start taking pictures or videos. The Pixel 9a is very snappy, very quick. You can double press on the power button to quickly open the camera app. The user interface is clean and intuitive. You get quick access to photos, videos, portrait, night modes. Everything is where you expect it to be. So if you're a first-time Pixel user, I don't think you're gonna have any issues navigating through the camera app. So one of the AI features that they emphasized this year, or maybe last year too, is the Add Me feature. Basically, it's when you're taking a group shot, but you're the one behind the camera and you wanna be in the photo as well. So you take the initial photo and then you swap with somebody in that photo. So now you have two separate photos, and then Google will try to stitch those two photos together and seamlessly add you into the group photo. To be honest, I haven't really used this that much because the photos look kind of awkward because there's always a gap between you and the other person. It looks okay most of the time. Sometimes the stitching is a little off or there's some overlapping. But yeah, I feel like this is kind of a gimmick. I don't think I'll really use this feature that much. Okay, now moving on to videos. This records 4K videos at 30 or 60 frames per second. The footage looks quite sharp, the colors pop, doesn't look too saturated. Skin tones look natural, color science seems pretty consistent with the stills. The exposure adjusts smoothly as I move between lighting conditions, and the autofocus is pretty consistent and fast. So here's a video testing out the autofocus. I'm not touching the screen or tapping to focus. This is all autofocus here. Stabilization is already on and it does a solid job for casual handheld clips, walking, panning, general use. See if there's any books that I recognize, anything I read as. And then there is the lock mode, which basically locks the frame down. It zooms in a little bit, but it feels like you're on a tripod, and the results are pretty solid. You can do slow motion video recording, which is nothing special here. It's only 1080p, but you can go up to 240 frames per second. Okay, now let's look at the front-facing camera. The front-facing camera is a 13 megapixel. In good lighting, it captures a solid amount of detail. Skin tones are quite accurate because Google has the true tone or real tone, whatever they call it. I think it's called real tone. So the skin tones look great and the dynamic range is pretty good. A feature that I find convenient is taking selfies with your palm. You just hold it up and then, it starts a timer. For videos on the front-facing camera, you can shoot up to 4K. The footage is pretty sharp. Colors are consistent with the rear-facing camera. It's not as wide as I like, so if you're doing vlogs, it feels a little too zoomed in. And also the stabilization is not that good from my experience compared to the back-facing video camera. I guess it doesn't really have good image stabilization for the front-facing camera. You can see the footage, the front-facing vlogging footage is quite shaky if you're walking around. The audio pickup is solid, especially if you turn on the speech enhancement feature. This helps isolate your voice from the background noise. The speech enhancement, I currently have it off, and yeah, there's traffic in the background, there's people talking. Okay, now I have the speech enhancement on, and you can probably hear less of the background noise, and hopefully, my voice sounds a bit more clear here. And finally, let's look at the night or low light photos and videos. Night sight will slow the shutter speed, and this will give you a clean and usable image without a tripod. Obviously, with a smaller sensor, low light isn't going to be as good as flagship devices, but in most cases, I'm actually quite happy with the low light results. Detail retention is good and the noise levels are well controlled. I think Google really does a good job with the AI image processing, so in really low light conditions, you can still get some fairly usable footage. Now, videos in low light isn't going to be as good, and this is where you start to see the budget show a little bit. It's usable, but there's some softness and visible noise. One little candle here, so it's very dark. And you'll definitely see lower quality and more noise when you switch to the ultra-wide lens. Okay, so that's it for this video. To wrap it up, does the Pixel 9a have a solid camera? Absolutely. For its price point, it delivers very solid, reliable, vibrant stills, sharp videos, and great active stabilization. And let me know what you think of all the footage I've shown you in this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Standing right underneath the cherry blossom. It's spring right now. The weather's not the best. It's kind of overcast today, but still a lot of people out.